That was weird.
You do. But I am saying that there is I mean, this is exactly parallel to what we were talking about before. There is the predatory version, which I would call a cult.
Right.
And there is the earnest version, which I would not call a cult. Now, I'm very uncomfortable with any of these things governing policy in the present because none of them have a literal relationship with reality that allows them to deal with the fact that we've got all these new problems for which there's no religious wisdom.
Maybe there's a problem in the word cult. Maybe we should just say a structure created by human beings, which is basically all structures, all models of behavior where you have to adhere to certain things. But the problem with religion, and even with a lot of cults, is these supposed grave consequences for deviating, right?
Well, so, all right, let's pick up Catholicism because
Okay.
it's easy, because so much of the structure is visible to us.
Yeah.
Okay. I would argue that Catholicism, this is going to be true of all of Christianity, it's going to be true of Judaism, but Catholicism it is easy to see how it would facilitate collaboration, that effectively it would recreate in some sense the insight that you're talking about from DMT, and that it would instantiate it in the population in a useful way that would facilitate collaboration and disrupt processes that cause infighting.
Yeah,
So-
like what I was speaking before, it might be a structure. It's the scaffolding for human behavior and ethics.
Right, but imagine, I mean, we can see it in Catholicism.
Sure.
We know where it is. So every week you have to go and confess the shit you're doing wrong to the dude in the box, okay?
That's how they used to spy on you. I mean, that's what that was for.
Well, but why are they spying on you? I mean, no,
Because they want to make sure that they don't get overthrown.
well, I think you're too cynical.
Really?
Yeah, because,
What do you think they're doing?
well, so first of all, I'm a biologist.
Okay.
How are these priests who don't marry passing on their genes?
They're not.
Oh, they are.
Oh, what are they doing? They're sneaky?
No, they're
What?
facilitating the stability of the lineage that they are in charge of. So the point is, they don't pass on their genes directly. They're passing on their genes indirectly through the population. Their interests are synonymized with the population that they are preaching to. And so you tell the dude in the box what you've been doing wrong. Imagine it's adultery. Right?
Okay.
Oh God, if I die before next week and I haven't confessed my adultery,
You go to hell.
I'm
You
going
don't
to go
want
to
that.
hell.
You
That's
gotta tell
bad.
him.
Hell
Gotta
is
tell
a
him.
very unpleasant place.
Tell that guy who doesn't get to have sex.
I'm going to tell him. So now the person I've been committing adultery with is thinking, oh shit, well I was going to keep this a secret, but now the priest is going to know that I've been committing adultery because he's going to hear from the other person, and so I better confess too. So now the priest has a sense of like, oh, there's an adultery problem
Right.
in the congregation, and the priest is flipping through the book and thinking, oh, this week what should we talk about? And so the priest then gets up at the pulpit and turn your book to Psalm whatever, and starts going on about adultery. And the people in the congregation who are engaged in adultery are thinking, oh shit, this is God talking to me directly. God knows what I've been up to, and he's not happy, and that's why we're reading this psalm. I better cut it the fuck out, right? So my point is, the dude in the box, he's taken a vow of poverty. He's living in the church. He does well when the town does well. He's not having babies of his own, so he can't really get ahead by himself. He gets ahead, genetically speaking, when the town does well. And he's in a position to spot what's going wrong in the town, and he doesn't have a dog in that fight because he's not involved in business, he's not involved in mating and dating.
That's all relatively recent when it comes to the Catholic Church in the last couple hundred years.
Yes, and I would argue if you look back at any of these traditions, any of the ones that worked will successfully have addressed the question of how you prevent corruption from emerging.
Well, apparently it was sexual corruption. These guys were rock stars. Like the priests were essentially the guys who had the direct line to God, and just like professors have been known to do, not you, but some have sex with their students,
Yep.
and because the students like look at them like, oh my God, I can't believe the professor's sitting down here with my work, and I mean, it's like that's a very minor connection in comparison to the connection to God.
Anybody
If
who's
you're a
going to
true believer.
have anybody who's
Power.
going to have power is in danger of abusing it.
Sure.
I
Or
would
you-
say it's interesting that in the Catholic Church and in other traditions where marriage and making money are impossible, that these appear to be evolved. What's the word? It's like error correction or protection from a virus. So an outbreak of corruption in the church is a bad thing from the point of view of the well-being of the congregation. And something that says, well, if you're a priest and you're spending money in town, people are going to look at you funny because you're not supposed to have money. And if you're, hanging around with cute girls, people are going to look at you funny because you're not supposed to be having sex. So this limits their ability to get away with stuff. I'm not saying it's zero. Obviously, it's not. But the idea that there will be protections in each tradition for this, that religions that don't successfully protect against abuses of power will succumb in competition to religions that do it effectively. And so you're absolutely correct that all of the changes in religious texts that people believe in, that's all human beings making decisions about what to keep and what to throw out. I'm not arguing anything else. But what I am arguing is those that have been insightful about what to keep from the point of view of the particular problems faced by the population that they are in will have a competitive advantage because they will function more cohesively than a population of atheists who doesn't have somebody looking out to prevent outbreaks of competition inside the lineage or outbreaks of infighting.
So if you were looking at it in an objective way, like say if you were an alien from another planet that didn't understand the language and you're just observing the structure, you would see as error correction in the structure. It would say, oh, they realized there's an issue here with power, and so they error corrected by making these priests be celibate, and then they figured out a way to keep them from having money, and that'll keep them from being invested in, okay.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
And I think it's very misleading to people who analyze things the way you and I would, because there's so much hocus pocus associated with these structures that, it's like constantly putting a finger in the eye of an analytical person.
Of course. I mean, just the way they dress, right? I mean, just the wearing the wizard costume and holding the staff and sitting on the golden throne and all of it. I mean, all the pageantry to it. It's all preposterous.
I mean, I agree. Looking at it as a modern person, it looks preposterous to me. On the other hand, there is no way, I'm telling you, I mean, most of my colleagues, I'm sure, would disagree with this, but I hope to show them to be wrong on this front. There is no way that the huge amount of effort and resource that is invested in these structures was an error. It cannot have been an evolutionary error, because if it was, the huge investment that populations put into these structures is an opportunity for some population that behaves in exactly the same way, except it doesn't make that error, to win.
Right, but when you get power and then you have the momentum of that power overcoming the population, and then you have positions where the behavior patterns are extremely restrictive, and you have to behave inside these behavior patterns or there's grave consequences. I mean, you could conceivably run that for 1,000 years without any error correction. And that's what you've got with Islam, right? You've got a very ancient form of religion that Michael Shermer wrote a piece about it that's pretty interesting, where he was talking about how it's the only religion that didn't go through the Enlightenment. And he makes these comparisons to like the corrections that have been had with other religions as time has gone on that haven't happened there. And you could equate it to resource management, you could equate it to the part of the world in which they live, you could equate it, there's a lot of different ways that you could try to figure out why this happened. But the reality is that thing has not changed, that structure has not changed for a long time.
I think you've hit on exactly the right point. Islam's mechanism for preventing outbreaks of parasitism was to hard code the thing. And this is a tragedy, because what it means is that where Islam needs to update, it doesn't have the mechanism for doing it. So,
but also has a built-in way to keep people aboard. Like if you become an apostate, you're allowed to you can kill them.
Right.
You can kill apostates, which is there's no other religion that we have right now that operates like that.
It has draconian punishments.
Imagine if Scientology did that.
Right. Well, I mean, Scientology obviously has a huge number of completely unacceptable mechanisms to keep people from leaving.
What up, bro?
But how is that not a cult? Since it was created by a science fiction writer, literally
Had to clean that up.
out of nowhere.
I'm going to be horrified if I said it wasn't a cult. I think
Right.
what I said is
It's too early to tell.
Right. So
But how is that possible?
okay.
So there could be some benefits in the future if Scientology continues to evolve and self-correct. It could get to the point where it's a behavior pattern that could be complementary and perhaps even beneficial to people.
I do not believe that this is where it is headed. But if 1,000 years from now it had flourished and the population that believed these things was successfully growing, you'd have to say, well, there's something in that set of beliefs that's working for these folks. So anyway, I'm not arguing that it isn't a cult. It has lots of hallmarks that make me think that I'm troubled by
Well,
it.
including much like Mormonism, you know the guy who made it. But this, and unlike Mormonism, which was in 1820, we have video. We see L. Ron Hubbard's bad teeth and his fucking captain's outfit on with the medals that he gave himself. You're like, hey, what is this?
Right. Oh,
Right? Oh, you get a planet when you die or something like that?
It sounds like a cult to me. On the other hand, I mean, we've got...
That's the Mormons get a planet when you die. Sorry. I'm confused.
Scientologists don't get a planet.
No, the Mormons do. And it was in one of the Osmond Brothers albums. They all went to these planets, like in the album. I forget what the album is. It's a hilarious album, but if you open it up, it's all planets. And the name of the album is this concept that you get a planet when you die. It's something that the Mormons believe in.
This seems stingy to me because
Planets?
the universe is so big, we can each afford to get a planet.
There it is. The plan. That's it. See, that is some Joseph Smith shit. But by the way, it's a wonderful book. If you read the actual origins of Mormonism, people that are listening go, wait a minute, what do they believe? Wow, do they believe some wacky stuff? But
They believe that there were angels in heaven who went against God and he cast them down and cursed them and turned their skin black. That's what the Mormons think. That black people are the cursed people and that's why our skin look this way.
he had a golden or a seer stone rather that allowed him to read the golden tablets. The seer stone was a special magic rock that allowed him to read these golden tablets that contain the lost work of Jesus. Was that the inside of the album with all the planets?
So I believe he was actually illiterate.
Yeah,
and that
he was a con man. And he was murdered.
Put a sheet over his head and dictated what he was supposedly reading to somebody else. That's my understanding of it. But
well, he was a charismatic person, like many people who've created cults.
He was.
I think what they did right. Mormons are some of the nicest people I've ever met. They have an amazing sense. They're super nice, and I've always said that if I was going to join a cult, I think I'd join the Mormons.
And then it just pauses for no reason.
But where they fucked up is regulations came in. They started restricting the market. The regulators came in and stopped these people from having 9 wives. And then they're not going to be so nice anymore. The reason why they were so nice is because they had these crazy relationships. They were having orgies every night. Well, they had 9 people living in that.
Connected to iPhone. Connected to Galaxy Tab A2016.
Because for everybody who had 9 wives, there were 8 dudes who had none.
Those guys got to get their shit together and start their own cult.
I guess.
Where, well, maybe they're gay. I don't know. What about the women, too, right? Well, how about a woman who has 10 husbands, This is bullshit for her.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, it should, right?
No.
It should be possible.
No, see, there's a very good biological reason
biologically.
that it doesn't make any sense, but...
You were ready to dig deep into your biological...
Oh, man, don't go polyandrous on me.
My daughter Emily was only 22 when she overdosed and died. Emily left behind a 9-month-old baby girl. I'm grateful for the work Senator Bob Casey's doing.
Oh my God.
He teamed up with Republicans.
Oh. You raised the druggie. Hey.
and they just want to shoot a bunch of people. That's not appropriate, because then
It's also on
that means I have
anti-anxiety medication.
Sure, but I'm sure. But there's also like when you say that stuff, it's like now what you're saying is I have no real way to protect myself.
Yeah.
Even if I carry a gun, take all my vitamins, wear my seatbelt, there's always some crazy shit I didn't think about. It's called fate.
The people I've talked to that understand psych medicines, I've talked to some psychiatrists I've had on the podcast.
I listened to Kelly Brogan talk about
Kelly
this.
Brogan talked about it quite extensively. One of the things that when her and many other psychiatrists brought up is the dissociative properties of a lot of these psych medicines. That someone might have a horrible idea in their head, but the repercussions of it are real. Like acting on it feels real. Wow. But as soon as you have some sort of heavy dissociative psych medicine, it's not even real. Like you don't care anymore. You're like blah blah blah.
You're like
blah,
watching yourself
yeah.
in a movie or something.
You're on something that dulls all the highs and the lows. It puts you in this weird state where it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to just kill these people. Like I don't know whether or not you could make the leap from being a person who could never kill somebody to being a person who doesn't have a problem with killing somebody. I don't know if that's true. I mean, maybe that's a chasm too far to cross. But I guarantee you, if you're the type of person that is having some horrible thoughts about like being aggressive to people, and then someone puts you on something that makes you like, I don't give a fuck. Like it's gonna. If you're who knows what the right chemical is too, right? Like if they give you the wrong one, maybe they'll switch you one way, or the right one will turn you the other way, or maybe that's the Dolphin mix. Throw some of this in there. It's an antipsychotic to help you all even out.
Do you know you can have a lesion on your brain the size of the head of a pin? You can have a lesion, and if it's in the right, there's a specific area of the brain where it can be a tiny lesion that you can't see really, barely with the naked eye, and it can render you a homicidal maniac. That's the problem. I got lesions in my brain.
Is that true?
Yeah.
What is it called? What's the lesion?
I don't know. I could look it up for you, but it's by. But you can. Where I heard it was in a lecture by Daniel Robinson, who was a professor at Oxford and Georgetown, and the smartest man on the planet.
That's why you have to really be careful when you're punching people in the head, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. That's what it causes. Well, so the guy who
does that make sense?
Remember the guy who captured the 13-year-old girl, not Elizabeth Smart, but the other one. He had 2 children with her, kept her for 18 years, and she escaped finally.
Yes, that was the guy. That was where did that take place?
He and his wife. It was somewhere in I think Seattle or something.
He had them in the basement, right?
He had them in the backyard in a shed in a sealed off shed, and then they lived in the backyard with their daughters until literally she was 18.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Yeah, he got her pregnant at 13, and it was just a terrible story.
This is what I was going to tell you about earlier. Did you see the footage where they're selling slaves in Libya?
Is it Libya or is it Iraq?
It's Libya.
Yeah.
There was maybe it's in Iraq too.
Yeah.
But it was Libya, and there was I forget who the title. It was USA Today that had an editorial that said, "Thanks Hillary Clinton." Because Hillary Clinton, apparently, they're blaming her decisions on the reason why we went into Libya and dethroned Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, you would know maybe more than most. But video of migrants sold in apparent slave auction in Libya provokes outrage worldwide. It's disturbing, man. When you watch it, they got guns to dudes' heads, all these photos. I retweeted it. If you want to go to my Instagram, you can see some of the pictures of it. But they have, Libya is a failed state now.
Yes.
And it's goddamn terrifying.
In
2017.
Look at that. In 1970, my father just told a story at Thanksgiving, and he was talking about how Dubai and Abu Dhabi have become these incredible countries.
Yeah.
And when he was first there in 1970, 1971, I don't know what it was, somebody said, "You see that woman over there?" And she was a black woman. She was from Africa somewhere. And my father said, "Yes." And he goes, "That's a slave." Oh. And that was in Dubai, I believe, back in the day. I'm sorry to anybody from Dubai. I know you guys have come a very long way, but slavery was order of the day in a lot of countries. I'm not just picking on you.
In a lot of countries.
In a lot of countries. It was the order of the day. I mean, the idea that slavery would no longer be a case, the idea that this would be outrageous to the world in 1940 would be, certainly in 1910 or something, would have been like, what? No, it'll always go on. Slavery is an order, is the way of life. I mean, I
think, though, today, with the ability to film slave auctions on your cell phone and then stream that shit,
I also think it's
AOL.com or whatever this is.
the more you learn about people and how similar we all are, and how, Sam Harris had a really interesting TED talk about this, about the idea that you have to be able to have a conversation about what is the most optimal way to live for a human being. What is the most optimal? Is it true that women are at their best when having to wear a full burqa in 120 degree heat? That's a good question. And by the way, are all opinions welcome at the table? Are you interested, I'm quoting Sam here, but are you interested in the Taliban's point of view on physics? No. And does someone who does for that matter, and he talks about himself, is his point of view on string theory, which he knows nothing about, as valid as somebody who studies string theory? No. But there's a tendency to kind of go, well, that's your culture, and I'm not going to get involved in it, even though it might seem brutal by my standards. You hear this a lot with like the Aztecs and human sacrifice. Yeah. And it's very taboo to talk about how it was barbaric, because, that was them.
Do you remember you and me and Steven Rinella had a conversation about that? Rinella literally didn't believe me when I told him that they sacrificed 80,000. Is that the number? What was the number when they sacrificed
the people who are not of the sun?
Pyramid of Teotihuacan, Temple of Teotihuacan. Is that how you say it? Teotihuacan. But apparently they sacrificed some fucking insane number of slaves. Yeah. So it's so crazy that if you tell a rational person like Steve Rinella, he's like, what? That can't be true.
Bro, them details starting to pop out.
Go, how horrible were people?
They starting to come alive.
I want to say it was 80,000 people. I think that was the number.
The sheer numbers, I don't know. I mean, that's a crazy
number. But it's like in a couple of days.
Yeah.
All the people that worked on the temple, apparently.
Bruh, I forgot when I got the iPhone 8. They told me it's a wireless charge. So I got some wireless chargers the other day. Shit's pretty nice. It's technology, man. You just charge it, set your phone on that shit. And this is what Nikola Tesla was talking about. But he had a better idea. You can set up the Tesla coils, and you don't even have to make a full contact. Like, if this shit can charge by itself, you can just walk around and your phone will just stay charged because there's free energy in the fucking air. There's a constant stream of free energy. Is what Tesla was trying to accomplish. But having like that fucking wireless charger is pretty fucking dope.
Liberty Mutual lets you only pay for what you need. And I'm finding everybody is like, so many people agree on so many different things right now that they are so afraid to talk about because you don't want to get in trouble.
Oh my God.
You don't want to bring it on to you. I don't want to get, I don't want to say anything. Like, it's just, you got to wear the all black tuxedo. Yeah. We're fighting for their freedom. Like, anything about foreign policy, anything about all these sexual harassment cases.
Anything about I'll probably try to paint for another hour.
One line of fucking thought that you can have. And if you don't have that, 100%. If you go a little bit out of the turn and go, well, hey, there's degree, any of that shit, out the fucking,
it's
heightened here too. It's heightened.
It's heightened in social media too, because there's always been these nutbags that'll latch on to one thing you say, but now they can congregate online and they can become an angry mob, and now corporations listen to these idiot angry mobs. Yeah. And like what you're saying with the sexual harassment stuff, it's bad enough just being accused of it.
Course.
And now everything gets taken from you, and there is no due process. There is no
there's no degrees. Hey, this guy's a rapist. Yeah. Hey, this guy said something.
Right.
Hey, I had a bad date, and then it's just all that's out in the fucking woods, two behind your ear, over, and then like some of this shit, like I don't know, like what is the end game? It's like these people, are they not allowed to ever earn a living again?
Yeah. Right.
Are they supposed to become homeless? I just I don't know. But this is the thing. Obviously, that behavior is completely unacceptable and you shouldn't be doing it. But the way that I just look at it this way. It's like this shit was like a fucking pressure cooker because no one was listening. So in a way, it's deserving on the male side that this is happening. But it's fucking exploding now. But any sort of like, hey, okay, let's find out what happened.
Yeah.
You know, and there's none of that.
I've actually heard the argument that we shouldn't break down and explain the degrees and the differences of these accusations. Like I've heard.
Well, I think that's because there needs to be a corrective first, right? There needs to be a correction. The pendulum, like Bill said, was so far on this end, and everybody's so fucking angry. So now the pendulum's way here, and now with the last thing, with the Aziz story, I think people are starting to go, well, wait a minute. Maybe there's gray areas to this discussion. It's not just...
There's gray areas with everything. If you look at people who created law who are way smarter than me...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's misdemeanors, and there's felonies, there's murder one, there's murder two, there's manslaughter.
People that are in this thing with their anger, especially if they're emotional about it, don't even want to entertain that conversation. They are just like, it's like you're trying to sell somebody like, hey, armed robbery and shoplifting are different, right? And they're saying, no,
it's all the same.
Somebody took something, that's the same.
Yeah, behead them in the public square.
I think you're being unreasonable because you're so emotional, which is a totally fair thing to say. But everybody else who's kind of thinking logically, I think is open to the idea that
the majority of the people are, because anytime I've said that on stage, like, there's no like, oh my God, heckling, shouting down, there's no like fucking problems. Same thing when you talk about the war. There hasn't really been any problem, but everybody is afraid to, like, you know, it's not good to, you know, when it's this level of emotional reaction.
Yeah.
To just lay back and just be like, just don't get involved, because it's gonna, you know. God, I mean, you know, the thing about a sex thing is if you just get accused of it. I've said for the longest time, like, if you get accused of rape, they shouldn't show your face or name until you're convicted.
Right.
Because once somebody just accuses you of it, you're fucked.
You're fucked.
And
done.
Not to mention, even if you were just accused of it, like, everybody in your own, like, personal life, you work, that's going to get out.
Of course.
And now social media, everyone's going to rat you out anyways, and it's just like there's no come back from that. And if you're actually innocent, and I've seen people going like, well, the instances of that are really rare. It's like, look them up.
Yeah.
There's enough of them that there should be some sort of thing like that. But I just don't think you can keep anything under a lid anymore. But I really do believe that it's a time for, like, you know, to not be afraid when you're on stage, especially as a comedian. Like, all, like, they're just starting to, like, you know, paint. It's just the weirdest thing. Like, when I was on stage, I was joking with, it was like this younger crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you get to my age, you start getting 50, it's like you kind of become like the cornball. Like, hey, take my wife, please. You know, your style becomes old. But they are so under a microscope. They act like old people. So, like, I was at a show last night. There was a couple guys like my age. We're like the edgy guys.
Right.
We should be the cornballs,
right?
Looking at the 20-something-year-olds in the crowd being like, Jesus Christ, these people are going to be running the nation? Oh, my God, remember back in our day, we just did dick jokes. What are these? I'm not really saying the comedians. I'm just saying the way the crowd...
Yes.
It's like you're on fucking doing a bunch of old people on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We had dinner with someone that has 3 25-year-old children. And he was saying how these kids are so terrified now because of the whole, you know, Me Too or the sexual harassment stuff. They're so under a microscope, like you said, that every move is like, can I ask a girl off? I don't know. Like, they're so fed.
Last night I was at the Laugh Factory, and as I was walking out, I was looking at my phone, and there was a waitress in front of me, and, like, I just didn't see her, and I bumped into, like, her backside, like her back all the way down. I said, oh, fuck. I go, sorry about that. And she goes, yeah, it's cool. I was like, oh, thank God.
Dude, I've been on stage, I've been doing this bit about the degrees of the sexual harassment things, like how they're based. It's a bit about that. I did it in Phoenix, Honolulu. I did it at the store.
We get it. You work in the road. People like you.
But then I did it.
I know.
I did it at a fundraiser show here. Whew, man.
Well, anytime you do a fundraiser, people are in this phony sort of, I have to pretend I care.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond. You obviously care because you're there.
Yeah.
But there is the cause. But then it seeps into everything else.
Yeah.
you know, and then it becomes like, oh, you just. But usually one line, usually like gets rid of it or whatever. You know what I mean? If you just call them on it, then they can kind of like relax. But
yeah, no, that didn't happen on my show.
Oh,
it went south pretty badly.
You weren't able to recover?
I was able to recover after more than a moment, and there was a little bit of.
Oh, I meant to show y'all something too, yo. I meant to show y'all some cool ass shit.
The last big ice age.
I mean, everybody knows that they're here, and we're using them. But who's seen one of these motherfuckers yet, yo? That's the thing. I've seen that. Let me Yo, who's seen this shit yet?
Self-driving car that everyone kind of gave me some trouble about a couple weeks back, saying you should have recorded it. But that's real quick night. Johnny's gonna grab pizza, this cool little car. But yeah, you should be here in a second. And here comes our car. It's kind of neat because it goes, supposedly goes at the speed limit of the community. We shall see. One of the only cars that stopped at this stop sign right here. Yep, this is it. So Johnny has texted a code to kind of get the pizza out of here, which we love. So here's it turning in. Oh, it gets so scary. But it pulls up. Johnny just pulls up to the iPad, punches in his code. Yes!
You got it.
And so he gets his pizza.
The container is open. You can safely remove your order now.
Pretty cool. Yes, you can safely remove it. Yay! Pretty cool. Awesome job, Domino's.
Domino's self-driving delivery vehicle.
And they say thank you.
Please stand clear. We're closing up and taking off.
Awesome job. Sweet. Have a good time.
Yo, ain't that some shit?
So
this motherfucking Domino's got fucking self delivery cars now. But check out Atlas though. Oh, you think them motherfuckers ain't making Terminator? You motherfucking crazy, bruh. Yo, if you don't think they making Terminator, Choo! Bruh. Terminator. Terminator is coming for your ass, boy. This is 2000 2018, right? Now just imagine 2038. How more advanced would this be by the year 2038? Okay, well, what about 2068? And what about the year 3000? In the year 3000, imagine what this shit would be capable of, yo. It'd be just like us. It'd be a fucking android, yo. You won't be able to tell that shit apart from humans, man.
On this planet hit its peak around 18,000 years ago, and then Earth began to warm up. And you can see on this map, here is the United States, here's Canada, and going up into the Arctic zone. And here is Europe, and where the ice was. And you can see that this part of the land, both in Europe and the United States, was dry and cold, but it was not covered with ice. That means that the Mediterranean area, even 18,000 years ago at the height of ice, was not covered with ice. Warming starts, and then something happened about 11,000 to 12,000 years ago. It plunged the Earth's temperatures downward again, very suddenly, and almost 30 degrees Fahrenheit below present-day average temperatures. And that is called the Younger Dryas cold snap that lasted for about 1,500 years, around 11,008, almost 12,000 for 1,500 years. Scientists have discovered in parts of North America a layer of nanodiamonds and iridium. It's all over parts of the United States, even extends up into some parts of Canada. They're looking to see if they can find anything in Central and South America. But so far, the main impact of whatever happened that has left this mat of carbon and iridium is largely here in North America. And iridium is a material that has always been linked to impacts from outer space. And the current hypothesis by scientists is that one or more comets and or meteors collided with this planet on the North American side that caused fires and dark skies around the entire Earth for at least 5 years, killing most plants, therefore threatening the food supply, and the dominoes begin falling into many animal extinctions. And it was in that cold darkness that 33 large animal species went extinct in North America, including the woolly mammoth, excavated from tundra, still preserved so well that this is the famous buttercups that were found, recognizable as flowers, in the teeth of these animals. And that means that these big woolly mammoths were quick frozen. Saber-toothed tiger skeletons have been found with their spines twisted 180 degrees by some unimaginable force. And at the same time that all this chaos was happening in North America, on the other side of the world, in a place called Göbekli Tepe, 9 miles northeast of Sanliurfa, Turkey, near the Syrian northern border, that in this map, just to help orient you,
Oh, we ain't been free for a long time, bruh. You know what I'm saying? The mental prison is way more powerful than a goddamn ball and chain. You know what I'm saying? You keep yourself in line. You keep yourself in line. They don't have to constantly keep orderlies over everybody because we're in a mental prison. So we already slaves. They just coming up with that shit just in case too many motherfuckers wake up and we decide to revolt. That's what them fucking Terminators for. Not to end freedom, to make sure we don't ever get it. And not any kind of real substantial freedom where everybody is aware that you are free in this world. You know what I'm saying? Because I gotta have a driver's license to operate my own personal vehicle, even though I have never been in an accident or anything else. I ain't free. I gotta pay taxes on my property that I thought I already paid for. How is that free? Oh yeah, that I'm telling you, bro, that shit is crazy. That shit is fucking crazy, bro. And I've been watching this Boston Dynamics shit for a couple years now. The better part of 2 years, I've been keeping up with them. Because the first thing I heard about them was they're a robotics company that was bought out by Google. And I'm like, okay, why is Google buying robot companies? And then, like that same year, you learn Google bought an AI development company. Okay, so Google just brought an artificial intelligence company and a robot company. Artificial intelligence and robots. That shit sound like some Terminator shit to me. I mean, I'm just adding 1 + 1. You know, a robot that's intelligent artificially. I don't want one. I don't want to meet one of those. I already seen how this movie ends. So they started out with the bull or some shit like that. Like these big ass bipedal, supposed to be like maybe like pack animals or beast of burden type looking animals. And they kept shrinking those down. They got a couple of them with like Caterpillar tires or tank tires or treads on that shit. And they tried those for a while. And then they kept shrinking down that bipedal form that they made until they got all the way down to the new one called Spot Mini. And that shit look all slim and sleek and can move pretty good. Before Spot Mini, they had one called the Cheetah. They got that motherfucker running like 60 miles an hour or some shit. And then they've been working on Atlas for a long time. Yo, I'm telling you, yo. They've been working on that shit for a while. That shit started out big and heavy. And they always had to keep it attached to a harness and shit. It was like fucking 280 pounds or some shit. Then they got that shit down around like 200 pounds and was able to take the harness off, and it was, just walking around by itself, being able to keep a decent equilibrium and balance. Then they've revamped that shit, made different parts lighter, gears and shit lighter, and now they says the newest model only weighs about 175 pounds. They're trying to make it the size of an average man, and that's about it. Like, I weigh 170 something pounds. So that shit ain't no heavier than I am. That shit is light, is agile. A couple months ago, I saw the one video when they finally put it outside. Like they had it, I should look up the progress of Atlas. Alright, so first Alright, this is some older footage from Atlas testing his balance.
Found it. Now we're gonna get some answers.
So they started out doing a lot of tests on balance and shit, and the mechanics on how, just being able to stand and move on two feet without the harness. Oh, that's not the oldest one. Wait a minute. Oh, they're only showing like the newer videos now. Alright, so now, he was jumping like this for a while, yo. This motherfucker been doing that. Look at that shit, son. Bruh, say that shit ain't scary, dude. Alright, so now the difference is the major difference is this motherfucker is doing that shit on 1 foot now, bruh. So they had him inside the whole time. This was the first time I seen him outside right here. Look how they got him just uneven ground, no harness, no nothing, yo, just perfect fucking balance. Running through uneven terrain, different textured surfaces. This ain't no controlled flat surface floors in no lab. See, but that's the whole thing you've been doing the whole time is the double jump with both feet. With both feet. He's just been jumping with both feet the whole time. But now the motherfucker can jump with 1 foot, bruh. Not both feet at the same time. That's a major difference. 1, 1, 1. Yo, that's a whole different program they done got inside that motherfucker now, bro. Whole different programming. He can jog. Yeah, even jogging at a steady pace, you're only making contact with 1 point to the ground at a time. But the distance of the other foot to get to the ground is a shorter distance, so it's more able to catch his balance easier. But that fucking jumping over that log and jumping up those stairs, bro, they programming the hell out this shit now, dog. That motherfucker can run, can jog, flip backwards, and jump on 1 fucking foot. 1, 1. Yo, that shit look fucking stupid, boy. Now all you gotta do is get that motherfucker a gun. Put a gun in its hand and tell it to shoot any whatever classifications you give for killing the target. And you done, son. You just done. What you gonna do? Kill it? You can't kill it. You might can put that bitch down. You know what I'm saying? Knock it down and destroy it. But so what? It ain't like you taking nobody's life or nothing like that. They gonna send another one after you, and another one, and another one. And you ain't gonna be able to kill all them, or you ain't gonna be able to destroy all them motherfuckers, man. One of them gonna get your ass. Bro, that shit is too fucking real. I can't goddamn, I don't know. Like I say, in 10 years from now, in 15, 20 years from now, how will that shit be? In 25, 30 years from now, what will that shit be capable of? Will that be the police? Will there not be flesh and blood people patrolling the streets and protecting and serving the community? Will they put these fucking robot drones out there as cops? You know what I'm saying? Will they be correctional officers? How will these things be implemented into our lives? Are they going to be like butlers and door maids and bathroom attendants or what? You know what I'm saying? But they're building these shits for something. Is it going to be all military purposes? In the beginning, everything is all military. Your motherfucking cell phone, that's military. GPS, military. Everything, stealth, everything. Everything is military first. And when the military is done with it, then they tell us, okay, here's civilians. See what you guys can do with it. But you already know, like, if they have that shit right now and they showing us this shit playing around, they already got some shit in Afghanistan that motherfuckers ain't talking about. T-1000. Y'all only want to see that T-1000 come out. Hell, I don't want to see the T-1000 come out. Fuck that. I don't want that shit. I don't want a Terminator scenario to actually occur. Can we please not do that? Google, can you please stop with your robot shenanigans? 1965. Tommy, tell us what you think life will be like in the year 2000. Well, there'll be flying cars and robots, and my dinner will come in a capsule, and I have to put water on. You think there'll be robots, Tommy? Yeah, robots will be everywhere, and there'll be police officers and firefighters, and robots will do everything for us. They'll be our friends. We'll have pet robots and. Yo, Tommy, your prediction of the future is fucking scary. Stop it. Robots are not your friends, son. In the future, there's gonna be teleportation, and we're gonna go to Mars. You know what? In the future, robots are gonna take your fucking job, and you gonna be useless. Oh, you already know. That shit scan. We already scanned everything. Everybody microchip right now. Everybody got a microchip. It's just not in you yet. That's the only thing. But we all got microchips. Cause goddamn, if you ever use your debit card and you try to swipe it, they gonna say no. Insert your chip. My what? No, you gotta insert your chip. My chip. Oh, fuck. They got me. Fucking shit. I do have a chip.
What is a fully formed human footprint doing in...
And at that point, when they started proceeding down Elm Street, shots started being fired from behind. And I assumed that it was Mr. Nicoletti because he was the one who was in the building, and I knew that Johnny Roselli was there. And I remember the shots ringing out, and even though the president was being hit with the rounds, I was considering it a miss because I knew that we were going for a headshot on the president. And I had known he had been hit in the body, but I didn't know what part at that time. And I seen the body lurch, and I saw the body lurch again. I heard another shot that missed, and we were supposed to hit no one but Mr. Kennedy. And I guess Governor Connolly got hit with one of the rounds at that point. And I wasn't even sure of that because I was keeping Kennedy as best I could in the scope on the fireball. And when I got to the point where I thought it would be the last field of fire, I had zeroed in to the left side of the head there that I had, because if I waited any longer, then Jacqueline Kennedy would have been in the line of fire. And I had been instructed.
We are at war with Russia, or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle. We are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer a free people. We are the victims of a bloodless coup. So far, a bloodless coup engineered by Russia with, at best, the traitorous indifference of the Republican Party and Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy. In 5 weeks' time, unless desperate measures are taken, we will hand over the government to a man who lost the popular vote by more than Woodrow Wilson or Jimmy Carter won it, a man whom the Russians wanted to run our country for them, a man whom the Russians got to run our country for them, a man for whom the Russians interfered with our elections, which if we did it to another country would be described as an act of war. And in this country, we have conceded defeat.
But it is the night of broken glass. It is the Nazis are here. They have finally walked through that door. When I was comparing people to Nazis and the Muslim Brotherhood, and everybody said, oh, no, they're not Nazis. Well, now you can see that they are. Now It is your choice to whether you see it or not, and God will not hold us blameless. When I was talking about this for the last few years, I was telling you these things were coming and saying God will not hold us blameless. You have to prepare for these things. I am telling you right now, they are happening. You can find the information. You can actually see the video. There is no excuse. No excuse will be accepted at the end of our lives. No excuse will be accepted. We all say never again. Well, it's happening right now. It is happening right now. And you will be held accountable.
On a lighter note, my name is Jerry Croth. I'm an associate professor emeritus, a psych professor, and I've done a number of videos on propaganda. And this one I've saved sort of for last. It is more challenging, and it's going to test you more than others have. So let us take a look at, we're going to talk about a few new techniques that have not been talked about in previous lectures. This is propaganda on the left, and then we'll do propaganda on the right. So if you look at these two pictures, you say, where's the propaganda? I don't see any propaganda here. That's a picture of Hillary Clinton giving a talk, a speech. There's Donald Trump giving a speech. There's no deceit. There's no deception. Nobody's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. I just see those things as pieces of reality. Well, that's part of what we are doing here in uncovering the underlying truth that is not being shown. For example, that's the Hillary Clinton rally that she's speaking at, and that's the Donald Trump rally that he's speaking at. So by cropping those pictures, you get a completely different impression than what reality actually is. Now, there are two techniques I want to introduce here. One is called reframing. Reframing in verbally is when you take a word and you twist it around and get an opposite meaning. For example, a crisis becomes an opportunity. Oh, isn't that nice? A problem becomes a challenge. So by changing the words, the context, and also the picture, the graphic, you can alter the meaning of what you're looking at. There's a more important propaganda technique here called the bandwagon effect. Numbers are important for the bandwagon effect to take hold. If we say 3 people on the bandwagon and know that hundreds have not joined, then the reverse effect will take place and we will be loath to join. If you walk by a restaurant and there are 2 people sitting in the restaurant, you think, I don't think I'm going to go to that restaurant, right? And if it's full of people, on the other hand, you think, well, there must be something really good here. That's called the bandwagon effect. Now, hidden from view, we're going to August 25th, 2016. By that time, Trump had 10 times more participants in his rallies than Clinton, 168,000 versus 10,000 for Clinton. But the media, the mainstream media, which is the liberal media, or I suppose, NBC, CBS, ABC, PBS, and CNN, did not report and show these discrepancies. They had close-in shots virtually all the time. These are Clinton rallies that you didn't see on television. Now, let's take a look at Trump rallies, which you also didn't see mainly on television. So, by using close-in shots, you control for the negative bandwagon effect. I don't want to go to that restaurant, nobody's there. And the positive bandwagon effect. My God, look at how much popularity there is. You control that, eliminate it, and kind of censor it, really. This is Hillary Clinton.
And I just have to tell you, I go to, as you might guess, a lot of states. And it's one of the best parts of running for office, particularly for president, because you get to travel around, you get to meet people.
Notice she turns around to talk to the audience. One of the reasons is there were only 171 people in attendance at this rally, and most of them were set to be behind her to give the impression that there's this huge crowd. So Trump complained about this news coverage, didn't get very far, but one day he finally got his moment.
But I want the cameras to span the room. Go ahead, fellas, watch. They don't turn them. They don't turn them. They don't turn them. Go ahead, turn them. Look, turn the camera. Go ahead. Turn the camera, ma'am. Turn the camera. You with the blonde hair, turn the camera. Show the room. Go ahead. They don't turn them. What about, hey, you in the center, why don't you turn your camera? Show them how many people come to these rallies. Turn them. Go ahead, turn them. Go ahead.
Well, there was an obvious reluctance to do that. Now, if you look at this data, by September 2016, Trump had 337,000 people who had come to his rallies. Clinton had 13,970. By October, Trump was averaging 6,000 people per event. Hillary's average was 380. So if you took these two studies, if you get an average discrepancy, it's 20 to 1. It's not small change at all. So by doing that, even though 20 times more people attended Trump rallies than Clinton, the polls show them neck and neck virtually throughout the entire campaign. Okay. Now, psychology is not an exact science. We can't quantify how much of this bandwagon effect played a role. I mean, the negative subtracting out Hillary's low attendance and subtracting out Trump's large attendance could have affected those numbers on how many people wanted to vote for Trump and Clinton. We don't know whether it was 2 points, 4 points, 8 points, but clearly there was deception here. This is propaganda. When you're not portraying reality accurately, and these close-in shots did not portray reality accurately. So some people say, "Oh no, I don't believe any of this stuff. Croft's making it up." Here are your sources, just so you know. I'm not coming up with this on my own. All right, for this segment. Now let's go to the right and give our compatriots equal time on the propaganda analysis front. Here we're going to talk about another technique called denial and distraction. If you remember in earlier lectures, denial and distraction means look over here, look over here, look over here, because we don't want you to look over here. We're trying to distract you from the hidden truth. So we're going to be talking about repeal and replace Obamacare and the Republican propaganda on that issue. But I need to give you background to build this thesis. So here's some background before we get there. I wrote a book called Duped, Delusion, Denial, and the End of the American Dream. Since most of this stuff is very contemporary, I wanted to put out a second edition, and I decided it would be better with a different title. So the new title is called Implosion, Delusion, Denial, and the Prospect of Collapse. So we're going to talk here, all of this comes from that book, called The Top 1%. This will lead us into Obamacare and that discussion. So if you look at the richest, the wealthiest 400 people in the United States, they have more wealth, more net worth than 150 million Americans. So that's what 400 people looks like right there. That's what 400 people look like right there. So imagine they're the wealthiest 400 gathered in this spot. Well, they have the net worth of 150 million Americans. That's how much of America they own, those 400 people. Some people would call that relatively egregious, right? All right, the top 1%, now that's not the 400, that's a larger group. The top 1% have an average accumulated wealth of $14 million. That's the top 1%. From 1979 until 2005, the income of the top 1% increased 176%. The bottom 20% their income over that long period of time increased 6%. Okay? So if you look at the wealth distribution of the top 1% and then the next 4%, you've got the top 10% get 83% of the wealth of this country. Okay? That's the wealth effect. That's wealth inequality. And here's a graph that is really worth your time. Take a look. Go to 1980, okay, and take a look at the red line. The red line shows what 90% of the country owns, their wealth. And look how that line goes down and down and down. Look at the white line, which is the top 1%. It goes from 1980, it goes up and up and up. It more than doubles. Okay, the rich are really getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. That's obviously what a lot of people have been talking about. So take a look now at the 2016 election, because now we're starting to think about the implications here. These are all the people that wanted to be president of the United States. And Jeb Bush is worth $20 million. Lincoln Chafee, you don't even remember him. He ran and left. He's worth $30 million. Hillary Clinton is worth $52 million. Carly Fiorina, $60 million. All of these people qualify as multimillionaires, as part of the top 1%. Kasich seems to be a populist. He's worth $9 million. The only people in this picture who are not multimillionaires are Mark Rubio and Bernie Sanders. So some people argue that we really don't live in a democracy. We live in a plutocracy, which is owned and governed by the wealthy. And we just are sort of being duped into the idea that we're choosing them in a democratic process. The Republicans are known as the party of wealth, the party of capital, and if you start looking around, the Republicans have a majority in Congress. They have a majority in the Senate. They just captured the presidency. They have the Supreme Court. They have a majority in all the state legislatures, and they have a majority of all governorships. They've locked it down. But a Pew poll shows that only 38% of Americans.
When I come back, I'll be working on those bricks some more.
That's an interesting discrepancy, I would think. Okay, but the country is kind of locked down by a one-party system now. Now, when we had our vote, we were choosing between a person who...
All right, guys, peace till next time.